The chamber was quiet, except for the soft hum of translation devices. Hayansik stood in the center of the massive room, surrounded by beings from 15 different worlds. Above him, the council members sat on floating platforms that made them look down at anyone who came to speak. He knew this was intentional. They wanted visitors to feel small. Hyun-Sik did not feel small. He felt angry. Behind him stood Yuna, her military uniform crisp and clean. She carried no weapons. The council did not allow weapons in their chamber. Her hands were clasped behind her back, and her face showed nothing. But Hayansik knew she was just as angry as he was. The Vrelnath Patriarch shifted on his platform. His scales caught the light, making him look like he was made of green glass. He had lived for 300 years and led the council for the last 50. He spoke in a voice that rumbled like distant thunder. Ambassador Hayansik, we have heard your petition. The matter of New Busan is unfortunate. The council offers its sympathies to humanity for this loss. Hayansik felt his jaw tighten. Unfortunate. They called the murder of 2,300,000 people unfortunate, like it was a shipping accident, like it was bad weather. With respect, Patriarch, I did not come for sympathy. I came for justice. The Quilner delegates clicked their mandibles together. The sound echoed through the chamber. There were 3 of them, their insect bodies gleaming under the lights. They represented the Hive Queens who had ordered the attack. They did not look worried. One of the other council members spoke. Her name was difficult for humans to pronounce, so everyone called her Elder Kelness. She belonged to a species that looked almost like floating jellyfish, her translucent body drifting in a tank of liquid. Justice is a complicated concept, Ambassador. The Quilner claim that New Busan was established in disputed territory. They say your people were warned multiple times to leave. Hayansik pulled out a small device and activated it. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed maps, territorial agreements, and official documents. All of them proved that New Busan had been legally established. The Quilner had never filed any official complaints. They had never warned anyone. They had simply attacked. These are the facts, Hayansik said. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. New Busan was a legal colony. We followed every rule. We filed every document. The Quilner attacked without warning. They destroyed entire cities from orbit. They killed children in their schools. They burned farms while families were working in them. This was not a border dispute. This was genocide. The word hung in the air. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. The Quilner delegates remained still. The Patriarch raised one clawed hand. Strong words, Ambassador, but we must consider all perspectives. The galaxy has been at peace for 10,000 years. We do not achieve peace by rushing to war every time there is conflict. 2 million people are dead, Yuna said quietly from behind Hayansik. It was the first time she had spoken. How many need to die before it counts as war? The Patriarch's eyes narrowed. We are aware of the casualties. The Council proposes economic sanctions against the Quilner Imperium. Trade restrictions. Limitations on their expansion for the next 50 years. This will punish them for their aggression while maintaining peace. Hayansik stared at the Patriarch. He looked at each council member in turn. Some met his eyes. Others looked away. He realized then that they had made their decision before he ever entered the chamber. This whole hearing was theater. They would do nothing real. Nothing meaningful. Economic sanctions, he said slowly. For genocide. It is the civilized response, the Patriarch replied. Perhaps humanity is too young to understand. Violence only creates more violence. We have learned this over thousands of years. You must trust in the wisdom of elder species. Something cold settled in Hayansik's chest. He had come here with hope. Hope that the galactic community would stand for justice. Hope that the rules they all agreed to actually meant something. That hope died in that moment. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a data chip. He set it on the floor in front of him. It contained everything. Every piece of evidence, every recording from New Busan, every message from people begging for help as the Quilner ships appeared in their sky. Every last transmission from parents trying to save their children. I came here believing in your system, Hyansik said. I believed that law meant something. That justice was real. You have shown me the truth. In this galaxy, might makes right. The strong do what they want, and the weak suffer. And you, the council, you simply make it all look proper. The patriarch's scales rattled, a sign of irritation. You speak out of grief, Ambassador. In time, you will understand our decision was wise. Hyansik smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Oh, I understand perfectly. You have taught me an important lesson today. You have taught all of humanity an important lesson. He turned to leave. Yuna fell into step beside him. As they walked toward the chamber doors, the patriarch called out behind them. Ambassador, what will humanity do now? Hyansik stopped. He did not turn around. We will do what you have taught us to do, patriarch. We will become strong enough that no one can ignore us. Strong enough that justice is not optional. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. 6 months later, the first reports came in. The Quilner Imperium had gone silent. Every communication channel was dead. Every signal, dark. The council sent investigation teams. None of them came back. And in the darkness of space, human ships moved like shadows, carrying out a mission that had been planned in cold fury. The council had taught humanity that law was meaningless. Now humanity would teach the galaxy. What happened when you pushed a species too far? The lesson was about to begin. The emergency meeting was called at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Council members arrived in their chambers looking confused and worried. Some had been woken from sleep. Others had been pulled from important ceremonies on their home worlds. But the Patriarch's message had been clear. This could not wait. Valterin stood in the center of the room where Hyansik had stood 6 months before. He was an intelligence officer, one of the best in the galaxy. His species had 4 eyes, which let him see in multiple directions at once. Right now, all 4 eyes looked exhausted. Show them, the Patriarch commanded. The room darkened. Holographic displays filled the air. They showed star maps of Quilner territory, dozens of systems, hundreds of planets, thousands of stations and habitats. Every single one was marked with a red symbol. Communications blackout, Valterin said. His voice was hoarse. Total and complete. We have received no signals from any Quilner facility for the past 72 hours. No distress calls. No routine transmissions. Nothing. Elder Kelnus drifted forward in her tank. Equipment failure? A solar phenomenon, perhaps? Valterin shook his head. We considered that. But the blackout is too complete, too precise. It affects only Quilner military and government facilities. Some civilian areas are still broadcasting, but they sound confused. They say their leaders simply vanished. The council chamber erupted in worried chatter. The Patriarch raised his hand for silence. Have we sent investigation teams? Yes, Patriarch. We sent 3 teams. Fast scout ships with experienced crews. Valterin paused. His 4 eyes blinked slowly, one after another. None have reported back. They entered Quilner space and disappeared. The room went very quiet. Show them the rest, the Patriarch said. He sounded old suddenly. Older than his 300 years, the holographic display changed. It showed footage from a long-range observation post on the edge of Quilner territory. The image was grainy and unclear, but they could all see it. A Quilner military station, one of their largest. It orbited a gas giant, bristling with weapons and shields. In the recording, something appeared near the station. The cameras could barely track it. It moved wrong, like it was skipping through space instead of traveling through it. Dark ships, covered in armor that seemed to drink in light. They surrounded the station in seconds. There was no sound in space, but they could see the flashes. Weapons firing. The station's shields lit up, then collapsed. The dark ships did not slow down. They tore the station apart piece by piece. When they left, nothing remained but debris. The entire attack took 4 minutes. What were those ships? Someone asked. Valterran looked down. We believe they are human.
Ow!
The council chamber exploded with noise. Impossible, some said. Humans were too primitive. They did not have that kind of technology. They were barely a spacefaring species, but the Patriarch was staring at the frozen image of those dark ships. He remembered Hyen Seek's last words. We will become strong enough that no one can ignore us. How many Quilner facilities have been destroyed? He asked quietly. Valterran pulled up another display. Every military installation in 17 systems. Every government building on 12 major worlds. Every Hive Queen chamber we can confirm. But, ... he hesitated. But what? No civilian casualties, Patriarch. The humans evacuated population centers before they attacked. We have reports of strange ships appearing over cities, broadcasting evacuation orders in perfect Quilner language. They gave everyone time to leave. Then they destroyed the buildings, but only the buildings. They did not harm anyone who was not military or government. Elder Kelness made a sound like water gurgling. They are being selective, precise. This is not random violence. This is not violence, the Patriarch said slowly. This is surgery. They are removing the Quilner government and military while leaving the people alive. Valterra nodded. We found something else. On the Quilner throne world, he changed the display again. The image showed a massive building, or what was left of it. The great palace where the Hive Queens had ruled for thousands of years. It had been reduced to rubble, but on one wall that still stood, something had been carved into the metal. The letters were huge, each one 10 meters tall. They were in human writing. The translation appeared below. You taught us that might makes right. Consider your lesson learned. The Patriarch felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. Real, cold fear. Contact the humans, he ordered. Immediately. We need to speak with them. We have tried, Patriarch, Valterran said. They are not responding to any of our messages. But, ... He paused again. What is it? We received one transmission. 3 hours ago. It came from just outside our territory. The display changed one more time. It showed a human male in a military uniform. He was older, with gray hair and eyes that looked like they had seen too much. His uniform had symbols on it that their translators identified. Admiral Taeyang, commander of the human stellar navy. The recording played. To the Galactic Council, Taeyang said. His voice was calm, like he was discussing the weather. The Quilner Imperium no longer exists as a military or political power. They have been neutralized. They will never harm another species again. Their people are safe. Their civilians are unharmed. But their ability to wage war is gone. This was justice. The justice you refused to give. He leaned forward slightly. Now we come for you. Not to destroy you. We are not monsters. But to ensure that what happened to New Busan never happens again. The Council has failed. The galaxy deserves better. The recording ended. The council chamber was silent. Every member stared at the frozen image of Admiral Taeyang's face. Finally, a junior council member spoke. She was young for a council position, barely 80 years old. What do we do? The Patriarch looked around the room, at beings who had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, who had thought themselves wise and powerful, who had believed that their way was the only way. We prepare, he said quietly, and we pray that humanity is more merciful than we were. Outside the council station, sensors began detecting movement. Ships were appearing, dozens of them, then hundreds. All of them dark, all of them human. They surrounded the council's home like a net. Drawing closed, the lesson was about to continue. The broadcast came from everywhere at once. Every screen in council space showed the same image. A human woman in a white coat stood in what looked like a laboratory. Behind her, massive machines hummed with power. Her name appeared in subtitles, Dr. Subin, Chief Scientist, Project Overkill. She did not smile. She did not make threats. She simply spoke. You are wondering how we did this, Subin said. How humanity built a fleet that could destroy the Quilner in 6 months. How we developed technology that your sensors cannot track? How we became the most powerful military force in the galaxy, seemingly overnight. She walked slowly through the laboratory. The camera followed her. They could see weapons being assembled, ships being built, technology that looked like it came from a dream. The answer is simple. We were always building this. From the moment we left Earth and entered the galaxy, we prepared for the worst. We hoped for peace. We reached out with friendship, but we planned for war. Subin stopped in front of a massive window. Outside, they could see a human shipyard. It was hidden inside an asteroid field, invisible to normal sensors. Thousands of ships hung in space like sleeping giants. Every human colony has facilities like this, she continued. Every station. Every settlement. While we smiled and traded with you, while we attended your councils and followed your rules, we built weapons. We studied your species. We learned your weaknesses. We prepared for the day when your justice system failed us. The camera moved closer to her face, and it did fail us. You let the Quilner murder 2 million of our people? You called it an unfortunate incident. You offered sanctions. Economic penalties. You treated genocide like a trade dispute. Her voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. That was your mistake. You thought our desire for peace was weakness. You thought our diplomatic approach meant we were not capable of war. You were wrong. The image changed. It showed schematics of human weapons. Technology that made the Council's best scientists gasp. Quantum displacement drives, Subin explained. We can move through space in ways your physics says is impossible. Zero-point energy weapons that can crack a planet's crust. Neural disruption fields that shut down organic and synthetic minds. Nanite swarms that can take apart a building molecule by molecule. She listed each weapon system calmly, like she was reading a shopping list. We have ships that your sensors cannot see. We have shields that your weapons cannot penetrate. We have computers that can hack your systems in microseconds. And we have enough firepower to end every military in this galaxy. The camera pulled back. Subin stood with her arms crossed. You have ruled for 10,000 years. You grew comfortable, complacent. You forgot that peace is not the absence of war. It is the presence of justice. When justice dies, war comes. And we are very, very good at war. The broadcast ended. The screens went dark. In the council chamber, no one spoke. They were all thinking the same thing. How had they missed this? How had humanity built such a massive military force without them noticing? Veltaren finally broke the silence. We were fools. We saw what we wanted to see. Humanity came to us with open hands, so we assumed they had nothing hidden behind their backs. We never looked deeper. The patriarch turned to his military advisor. What are our chances if we fight them? The advisor was a veteran of a dozen wars. He had commanded fleets that conquered systems. He looked at the data from Subin's broadcast and shook his head. None. They are at least 50 years ahead of us in technology. Maybe more. Their ships are faster, stronger, and better armed. And they have been planning this for generations. We would be slaughtered. What about alliances? Someone asked. If we united all the council militaries, look at what they did to the Quilner, the advisor said. The Quilner had one of the largest militaries in the galaxy. Humanity destroyed them in 6 months without losing a single ship that we know of. If we combine every council fleet, we might last a few weeks. Maybe the truth settled over them like a heavy blanket. They were helpless. Completely and utterly helpless. Elder Kelness drifted forward. Perhaps we can negotiate. Offer them something. Anything. Before anyone could respond, another broadcast began. This time, it was Yuna. She stood on the bridge of a warship. Behind her, crew members worked at stations that looked nothing like standard galactic design. Everything was efficient, deadly, and strange. Members of the Galactic Council, Yuna said. I am Commander Yuna, Strategic Division, Earth Defense Fleet. I am broadcasting from the warship Righteous. Fury, we are currently positioned 300 kilometers from your council station. We have been here for 6 hours. Your sensors have not detected us. The council members all rushed to their own sensor displays. They saw nothing. Empty space. But Yuna was telling the truth. The humans were right there, and they had no idea. "We are not here to negotiate," Yuna continued. "We are not here to accept tribute or make deals. We are here to ensure that what happened to New Busan never happens to anyone again." She walked across the bridge as she spoke. "For 10,000 years, you have maintained order. Not peace, order. You kept things quiet and comfortable for yourselves. You allowed the strong to prey on the weak as long as it did not disturb your comfort. You enabled genocide because stopping it would be inconvenient." Yuna stopped and looked directly at the camera. "You created a galaxy where justice is optional, where rules apply only when it suits you, where 2 million dead humans get economic sanctions and a better luck next time speech. That galaxy ends today." The image changed. It showed human ships across council space. They were everywhere, surrounding every council world, every military base, every government facility. The council had been completely encircled, and they never knew it. "You have been judged," Yuna said, "and found wanting. The Galactic Council is dissolved. Your authority is revoked. Your rules are null. In 1 week, we will establish a new galactic government, one with real justice, real accountability, real consequences for aggression." She leaned forward. "You can cooperate or you can resist. But understand this. We are not the Quilner. We are not some border species you can ignore. We are humanity. We came to the stars, hoping for friendship. You taught us we needed to bring firepower, so we brought enough firepower to end civilizations. Do not make us use it." The broadcast ended. The patriarch sat in silence. Around him, council members argued and panicked and pleaded, but he knew the truth. It was over. 10,000 years of council rule ended the moment they refused to give humanity justice. They had created this monster, and now they would have to live with it. Outside, the human fleet waited, patient, deadly, ready to reshape the galaxy whether the council liked it or not. Commander Daehyun stood on the bridge of the strike carrier Vengeance. Through the main viewport, he could see the Vrelneth military complex. It was the largest military installation in the galaxy, a fortress that had stood unconquered for 5,000 years. Massive cannons pointed in every direction. Shield generators powerful enough to protect entire planets hummed with energy. Thousands of automated defense drones orbited the structure like angry insects. "Target locked," his weapons officer reported. Her name was Jiwoo, and she had designed half the weapons systems on this ship. "Awaiting your command, sir." Daehyun looked at the fortress. He felt no anger, no hate, just a cold determination to do what needed to be done. "Disable their shields first. I want 0 casualties. This is about justice, not revenge." Jiwoo's fingers danced across her console, initiating neural disruption field. 3. 2. 1. Mark. The fortress's shields flickered and died. Emergency lights began flashing across its surface. The defense drones stopped moving, their electronic brains scrambled by the human field technology. Inside the fortress, Vrelneth soldiers would be confused, their computers shut down, their weapon systems dead. "Launch the nanite swarms," Daehyun ordered. Small pods shot from the Vengeance. They spread across the fortress like silver mist. Within minutes, the massive cannons began to fall apart. The weapons dissolved into their base components, leaving the structure intact but completely defenseless. The fortress that had stood for 5,000 years was rendered harmless in under 10 minutes. "No casualties detected," Jiwoo reported. "All personnel are safe inside the fortress. They just can't fight anymore." Daehyun nodded. "Good. Mark this location as neutralized and move to the next target." Across the galaxy, the same scene played out hundreds of times. Human strike teams hit every council military installation simultaneously. They did not invade. They did not occupy. They simply removed the council's ability to wage war. On the council station, alarms screamed. The patriarch watched his military crumble in real time. Every report was the same. Human ships appeared, disabled the defenses, destroyed the weapons, and left. No one died. But every gun, every ship, every missile was gone. "They are not trying to kill us," his military advisor said. He sounded shocked. "They are disarming us." Patriarch understood. This was the message. "We can destroy you anytime we want, but we choose not to." That made the humans more terrifying than any conqueror. They had total power and were showing restraint. For now, one of the council species tried to resist. The Mexillar were proud warriors who had never lost a battle. They launched their grand fleet, 2,000 warships, carrying the finest weapons the galaxy could build. They would teach these young humans a lesson about challenging their elders. The battle lasted 17 minutes. Daehyun was not even part of that fight. Admiral Taeyong handled it personally. The recordings would later be studied in military academies across the galaxy. The Mexillar fleet came in standard attack formation. Their ships were beautiful, covered in ceremonial markings and honor badges. They had won 100 wars with these tactics. They expected the humans to be intimidated. Instead, the human fleet simply appeared around them. One moment the Mexillar were alone in space. The next they were surrounded by 300 human warships that their sensors had never detected.
Mexillar fleet.
Taeyong's voice came over every communication channel. "Power down your weapons and surrender. You have 10 seconds to comply." The Mexillar commander laughed. He gave the order to fire. 2,000 ships opened up with everything they had. Energy weapons, missiles, kinetic rounds. Enough firepower to destroy a planet. Every single shot missed. The human ships moved impossibly fast, dodging between the attacks like they knew where each one would be before it fired. Return fire came from the human fleet. But it was not lethal. Neural disruption pulses shut down every Mexillar ship simultaneously. 2,000 warships went dark in an instant. "Mexillar fleet has been disabled," Taeyang reported. 0 casualties on both sides. Their ships are intact but cannot fight. Rescue crews are standing by to assist with life support. The Mexillar commander would later say it was like fighting ghosts. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They moved like physics did not apply to them. And they won without killing a single Mexillar warrior, which somehow made the defeat even more humiliating. Back on the council station, Hyansik arrived. He walked through the same doors he had left 6 months ago. But this time, he did not stand below the council platforms. He stood at their level, projected on a holographic platform of his own. The Patriarch looked at him. "You have made your point, Ambassador. You have shown your strength. What happens now?" Hyansik looked tired, like he had aged years in 6 months. "What happens now is you make a choice, Patriarch. You can accept that your way failed. You can help us build something better. Or you can resist, and we will dismantle your civilizations the way we dismantled your military." "You speak of justice," the Patriarch said, "but you threaten war. How is this justice?" "We did not want this," Hyansik replied. His voice was heavy with sadness. "We came to you in peace. We followed your rules. We believed in your system. And when genocide happened, you gave us sanctions. You taught us that in this galaxy only power matters. So we became powerful. Powerful enough that you cannot ignore us anymore." He looked around at all the council members. "You had 10,000 years to build a just galaxy. You built a comfortable one instead. You let the strong prey on the weak. You enabled monsters because stopping them was inconvenient. New Busan was not the first genocide in your watch. It was just the first one that had consequences." Elder Kelnus drifted forward. "What do you want from us?" "Dissolve the council," Hyansik said. "Admit that your system failed. Help us create something new. A government with real laws and real enforcement, where genocide brings justice, not economic sanctions. Where all species are protected, not just the powerful ones. And if we refuse..." Another council member asked why UNA appeared beside Hyansik's hologram. "Then we do it without you. We have already contacted every species in the galaxy. The minor races, the ones you ignored for 10,000 years, They are eager for change. You can be part of building the new order, or you can be remembered as the old order that failed. The patriarch was silent for a long moment. He thought about his 300 years, about the council's 10,000 years of rule, about all the times they had chosen order over justice, comfort over courage, and he thought about the 2,300,000 humans who died because the council would not act. "You have won," he said quietly. "Not through cruelty, not through conquest, but through showing us our own failure, we will cooperate." Hyacinth nodded. "Thank you, Patriarch. The new galaxy begins today." Outside, the human fleet remained on station, watching, waiting, ready to enforce peace through overwhelming power. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Justice was no longer optional. 6 months after the council dissolved, the first meeting of the new Galactic Assembly took place. The chamber was different from the old council room. There were no floating platforms, no hierarchy of height. Every species sat at the same level, in a circle. No one looked down on anyone else. Hyacinth stood to speak. He was the elected speaker of the assembly, chosen by representatives from 300 species. Most of them were races the old council had barely acknowledged. Small civilizations, young species, peoples who had lived under the shadow of the powerful for thousands of years. "We are here because the old way failed," Hyacinth began. His voice carried through the chamber without artificial amplification. For 10,000 years, the galaxy was ruled by comfort, not justice, by convenience, not courage. That ends today, he gestured around the room. This assembly has real power, real laws, real consequences. If any species commits genocide, we do not debate. We do not sanction. The Galactic Defense Force will stop aggressors immediately and bring them to justice. Una sat in the section reserved for military leadership. She now commanded the GDF, a force combining human technology with volunteers from every species. They were not an army of conquest. They were protectors. Peacekeepers with the power to actually keep peace. "The rules are simple," Hyacinth continued. "No genocide. No slavery. No aggressive expansion. Species in conflict will submit to arbitration. Violations will be met with overwhelming force. There are no exceptions. No special cases. The law applies to everyone equally." A representative from one of the elder species stood. It was a Threnody, a race that had sat on the old council. "Speaker Hyacinth, what prevents humanity from becoming the tyrants you claim to oppose? You have the most powerful military. Who checks your power?" It was a fair question, one that many species wondered about in private. Hyacinth smiled sadly. "That is the right question to ask. The answer is this: we do not want to rule the galaxy. We wanted justice, and you would not give it to us. So we took it. But now that justice exists, we will share the burden of maintaining it."
Oh.
Subin appeared on a screen. She was broadcasting from Earth. "Humanity's releasing our defensive technology to all assembly members. Our shield technology, our detection systems, our computer security. Anything that helps you defend yourselves, we share. Freely. We keep only our offensive weapons, and those are under assembly oversight." The chamber erupted in surprised chatter. Species had expected humanity to hoard its technological advantage. Instead, they were giving it away. "We do not trust you to not abuse power because you are human," Hyacinth said when the room quieted. "We build a system where no one can abuse power. Transparency, oversight, checks, and balances. The GDF answers to this assembly. I serve at your pleasure and can be removed by vote. Our military strength is matched by military accountability." He paused. "And there is one more thing. The trials begin tomorrow." The Quilner representative stood. There were dozens of them now. After their government fell, the Hive Queens had been arrested. The military commanders who had ordered the attack on New Busan were in custody, but the Quilner people themselves had asked to join the assembly. "We accept responsibility for what our leaders did," one Quilner said. His voice was translated into every language present. "We ask for justice. real justice. We will accept the Assembly's punishment. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. The whole galaxy watched. It was broadcast on every channel. For the first time in galactic history, the powerful were held accountable. The verdict was unanimous: guilty of genocide. The Hive Queens and military commanders would spend the rest of their lives rebuilding what they destroyed. Not execution. Labor. They would go to New Bizon's ruins and help rebuild the colony. They would work alongside human supervisors, turning the graveyard of their victims into a memorial and a new home. Some humans wanted harsher punishment. Death for death. But Hide-and-Seek argued against it. Justice is not revenge. It is accountability and restoration. They will spend their lives making amends. That is enough. The Quilner people were not punished. They had not voted for the attack. They had not known it was coming. The Assembly recognized that punishing an entire species for the crimes of their leaders was itself a form of genocide. So the Quilner stayed in the Assembly, represented and protected like everyone else. In a quiet moment after the session ended, the Patriarch found Hide-and-Seek alone in a hallway. The old Vrelneth moved slowly now. The stress of the past months had aged him. "I wanted to apologize," the Patriarch said, "for what the Council did to your people. For our failure." Hide-and-Seek nodded. "I accept your apology. But the 2 million dead cannot. I know." The Patriarch's scales had lost some of their shine. He looked tired. "I have been thinking about your words that day, when you said, 'We taught you a lesson.' You were right. We taught you the wrong lessons. And now the galaxy pays for our arrogance. The galaxy benefits from our determination." Hide-and-Seek corrected gently. "You made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But we are building something better from it. That is what matters now." The Patriarch looked at this young human who had brought 10,000 years of rule crashing down. "Are you not afraid of what you have become? You've built weapons that can destroy civilizations. You have the power to conquer the galaxy." Every day, Hide-and-Seek admitted, "I am afraid every single day. That is why we must have oversight. Why we must have laws that bind even us. Power without restraint is tyranny. We learned that from watching you." The old being nodded slowly. Perhaps humanity was exactly what the galaxy needed. Someone willing to break the comfortable order to achieve true justice. "We did not want to be that," Hide-and-Seek said. "We wanted to be your friends, your partners. But you forced us to be your teachers instead." Far above Earth, the human fleet maintained its eternal vigil. New ships joined them daily, but many more were being decommissioned. Humanity did not need an empire. They needed security. The ability to ensure that New Busan never happened again. On the colony world that was being rebuilt, young Minji walked through the construction. She was a new diplomat, part of the generation that grew up after the war. She stopped at a memorial wall. 2,300,000 names were carved into black stone. An old Quilner worker was there, placing flowers. He had been a general. Now he laid flowers at the memorial every day. "Why do you do this?" Minji asked him. The Quilner looked at her with compound eyes that held deep sorrow. "Because I must remember. We all must remember what we did, what it cost, so it never happens again." Minji nodded. That was the point of all of this. The war, the trials, the new government. It was not about revenge. It was about making sure that everyone remembered. That power without justice leads to horror. That comfort is not the same as peace, the galaxy had learned. Humanity had taught them. And now, together, they would build something that lasted. Something worth protecting. In her first speech to the Assembly, Mingi said words that would be taught in schools across 1,000 worlds. "We did not come to the stars to conquer. We came to explore, to learn, to grow. You forced us to become warriors. But we chose to remain protectors. That choice defines us. That choice defines the galaxy we are building together." The old council had frozen in fear when humanity arrived. But from that fear, something new was born. Not an empire, not a tyranny, but a true community. One where justice was not optional, where the strong protected the weak, where genocide brought swift punishment, not empty words. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity showed them what true strength looked like. Not cruelty, not conquest, but the power to demand justice and the wisdom to show mercy. That was the lesson, and it would never be forgotten.